Well, welcome to this lecture on the way of things. This lecture is going to be on Tanahas, or water pockets as they're sometimes called in other parts of the desert. And basically it's just a depression in the rock that holds water. Now, sometimes these things are often overlooked as far as being important, and they're just looked at as a puddle. And yet there's quite a difference between a puddle and a real water pocket or a Tanaha. And the difference is duration. The duration that the water will stay in a particular pocket is based on several things. One, how well sealed is this bowl or this depression in the rock? The other is whether it's in the sun or not. And then the other that's very important is its depth. How much water does it have to evaporate? And that's a key concept in understanding them. In a normal circumstance, if you have one of these Tanahas or water pockets out in the sun, and it's sealed tight, it's got a good solid seal, not all of them do, it's going to lose about an inch a day in the middle of the summer. In the middle of the summer it's going to evaporate about an inch a day. And many times you can actually, when you get to a Tanaha or a water pocket, you can actually look at kind of the bathtub ring, and you can actually see what it's losing every day. You can actually see it because the animals get in there and splash, and the insects and whatnot, and they'll leave a line, just layer after layer, it's evaporating like. And it's a key to really understanding how long it lasts. So if you have one that's, say, 3 feet deep, and you walk up to it and you look at these lines and they're about an inch apart, you're going to be able to predict that this water source is going to last about 30 days. And that's significant. That changes it into a water pocket or a Tanaha as opposed to just another puddle after the rainstorm. You're going to have puddles after the rainstorm, and little pockets in the rock that are 2-3 inches deep, and they'll last a few days. And the water will be used by the animals, but then they're gone. But these other pockets that are going to last a month to 2 or 3, because some of them last that long. If you get even one that's 3 foot deep, and it's sealed tight, and it's in a deep canyon where it doesn't have the direct rays of the sun, it might be a 50-60 day water source, and it might have 2,000-3,000 gallons. And even if it's only 300 or 400 gallons, that's a lot of water for wildlife, especially when you're talking about bighorn sheep or the deer or coyote. That's a lot of water. And when you look at these water pockets, another one of the telltale signs that it's something significant is you want to look and see if it has game trails into it. If it has game trails, then you want to, of course, look and assay those game trails and see, is it something new? Is it something that's been used a lot? Read the sign on them game trails, and it'll tell you a lot about that particular water pocket and whether there's others in the area. If you look at it and say, wow, there's a lot of deer, there's a lot of bighorn sheep in this area, and here's this 3 foot deep water pocket that's got 400 or 500 gallons, it's 10 foot across, why isn't there any animals here? Where are the sheep, where are the deer? It may be an indication that there's a better one somewhere else. And vice versa, if you come to one and you've seen 2 or 3, let's say it's only a day or 2 after the rain, and you're out hiking, and you come to 1, 2, 3, 4, you're hitting all these different water pockets, but then you get to one and you say, there's game trails into this one. Well, that's the one that lasts. That's the one that's significant. And sometimes it might be significant because it's accessible in a safe condition. Sometimes some of these water pockets and Tanahas are back in deep canyons that are kind of a trap for some of the animals. Your coyote, bobcat, mountain lion, they'll go into them. But your deer, your antelope, your desert bighorn sheep will be a little more weary about going in to some Tanahas and some water pockets. So they may feel safer at another one, and maybe it's not as good, but they'll use it first, and then only when they have to go to this other one. Now another thing that happens with these Tanahas and these water pockets is a lot of times you'll have a spring somewhere, or a river, or a creek or something, and the main population of the animals, the deer, sheep, coyote, bobcat, are really working that creek or river or major spring. But then the rain comes along and starts greening things up. And the animals know they have that. A lot of these Tanahas and stuff are actually in the herd memory. The animals actually know this on a herd level. And maybe a particular animal, or maybe many of the animals, have never been to this Tanaha. But the old ewe in the group, or the old ram, or the old buck knows where it's at, and he goes off and starts eating around that area, because now he can use an area that he couldn't before, because there was no water. But he knows there's water there now, and now, instead of being in a normal place, if you will, they're up further along the mountain or further down the range, because they know where this water source is. And so there's going to be a shift in their activity. And this again is something you can look at. Is this Tanaha suddenly got a lot of use yet? Or if you go to it and it's got water and it doesn't have tracks to it yet, maybe in a few days it might. It's something to look at. If it's got game trails to it and no fresh sign, it's an indication that the animals have either not gotten there or they don't need it. One of the two. So you can start looking at these things as something that's very important. And many of them have glyph sites associated with them, game trails, and have been there and been used for thousands upon thousands of years. That it's just hard to fathom that this little pool sometimes is that significant. But it is. So when you get to these water sources, you'll also sometimes find that they're an ecosystem in themselves, that they're going to have maybe brine shrimp or mosquito larvae or larvae from dragonflies and so forth. And so they become also a food source for some animals. So whenever you're out in the desert and you find one of these water pockets or Tanahas, don't discount them as being unimportant just because of their size. Now some of them might be 100 feet across and kind of, they're loud, if you will. You know, they tell you about their importance. But sometimes some of these ones are very important, and they're only 3 or 4 feet across and maybe 3 or 4 feet deep. But they're still an important water source, an important focal point for life in the desert. And so don't discount them. Look for them. Try to understand them. And with that, I thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this lecture on Tanahas. They're a fascinating subject and worth spending some time learning. And with that, I thank you.